Okay, this is one of those tricky moments where it doesn't tell you that you're live yet, but we are live.
We are live?
Yes, and now it just said that we are.
Okay, so we're here.
We're here.
It's Sunday evening, 7 o'clock
Yes, it is.
again.
Yes, it
And
is.
another day where we got to go to church after months, 6 months of not. Worshiping, fellowship, praying for others, things that we take for granted and we sort of lost, and we're getting them back, and that's it's great. And,
Well, it has been great to have church online. I mean, our church has been really good, as I know, I think all the churches have been, to provide something on the internet. And it's been wonderful, but it's not the same.
no, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
No.
No. And we're still, our church is still streaming live for those who still aren't comfortable going to church. And our church, I'm really proud of our church leadership because they are making sure that we're safe. We're following all the regulations, all the rules to a T. And that's good because that gives us peace, that we're not putting anybody in harm's way. And then the other thing today is that about every other week we get Evan time. That's our first and oldest grandson. He's 22. And we just happen to be in the chapters in the book where he's born and comes into our life. And we'll be dealing with some more of that tonight. Not dealing with it because it was just nothing but joy when Evan came.
Yeah.
And but it's just wonderful to think, he's 22 years old now, and
And he chooses to come and see us every couple
yeah,
weeks.
we're still really
Yeah.
really close to him, and he's so kind to us. I know that I wouldn't admit this to him, but I know that we're not like, oh joy, fun for somebody 22 years old to hang out with, but he does, and he's not forced to. So it's really a blessing for us. Yeah. And so are our other grandchildren. We just got to spend a little bit of time with them, but that was on a Zoom birthday party. And those aren't so great.
Yeah.
They don't really want to be there. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And
teenagers, yeah.
yeah, and they had their friends there and everything, but they have to stop and do this Zoom birthday party. And okay, so
Okay,
we can get
so
started.
We're here. It's Sunday evening, and we're going to be reading chapters 47 and 48 from our book, In Spite of Us, a love story about second chances. Available in bookstores just about everywhere. If they don't have it, they can order it. And you can get it online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Or you can just follow along with us every week. You can go back. I've posted the link to the YouTube site where all of the chapters are there. We only have, how many weeks, Sandy?
5 counting this one.
Okay, so after tonight, there's
We have
only 4 more weeks
weeks,
that we'll be doing this. So.
Yeah, and it's been fun. Yeah, okay, keep smiling when I say that it's been fun.
I'm so glad you had fun.
So before Deb starts reading her chapter, I'm going to read a review.
Because every week.
Yeah, I read a review of this is an Amazon review by a guy named Dustin, and it says, "I love this book. It was heartwarming, funny, irreligious, profound, redemptive, and by the end gave me hope for us all. Reading about Deb and Sandy's inner thought processes was a wonderful ride. I love the literary device of alternating between their two very distinct yet somehow complementary voices. I love how God gently eased himself in and began permeating their lives. He revealed himself to them so full of love, grace, and forgiveness, and simple work for others that the inevitable occurred when they become some of the most treasured followers. Do yourself a favor, read this book. I would be willing to bet you will fall in love and cherish it just as much as I did. Thank you for that great review, Dustin. And at that point, I'll hand the book over.
Yes. Okay, so I'm reading chapter 47 tonight, and so I'll give you a little bit of background about it, about where I'm at this stage in our story. So at this stage, the ground is really shifting now. And the scariest thing is, I become the saner of the two of us. Now that's all God. And for the first time ever, I'm recognizing that I have a father, a heavenly father, one who loves me. I've also been introduced to grace, and that word rocks my world. Basically, it's the beginning of being on fire for Jesus. And who would have guessed? Not me in a million years. And that's the beauty of it all. He does the impossible and leaves you wondering how you could have been so blind. Wondering how I could have missed the constant spiritual taps on the shoulder, whispers in my ear, tugs forward. But also in this stage of our story, Sandy, the rock, is being suffering erosion under the waves of life. He's in constant physical pain, and I can't do anything to help, which leaves me frustrated and at peace at the same time. At peace because I know I can't do anything, but God can, and it's in a strange way comforting that I can't do anything because I know that I'm not powerful enough to be able to do something that would even matter. So also in this season of the book, I want so much for Sandy to have what I found. But my attempts to force feed it to him are doing nothing but pushing him away. Okay, so I don't like these little tiny bookmarks. I use big bookmarks. Gee. Okay, chapter 47, our communication officer. The front door slams, followed by the thud of a chair hitting the hardwood floor. Sadly, of late, door slams, furniture tantrums, and fluent blue words are the norm. What's wrong? I ask, lifting the chair to its upright position.
They told me to leave, never come back. They won't listen to me. They just want to throw drugs at me and wave goodbye.
I know better than to ask questions. Sandy needs to unravel organically. My heart sinks as he shares what happened at the medical clinic. I understand his side, but I also know how he's been lately and suspect the people at the clinic may have feared for their lives. The havoc began 3 months ago in the midst of moving 3,600 square feet of antiques across the street to a 2,400 square foot building. With a perpetual,
I'm fine.
Sandy ignored his 25-year-old back injury. By the time the move was over, his occasional severe pain turned constant and unbearable. Throughout the night, he paces, unable to sit or recline for more than moments at a time. The good news? He's finally doing something about the chronic pain he's lived with for a quarter century. The bad news? He needs a GP referral before the surgery can take place, and he has 0 patients left to handle it. The surgery appointment is all set for April. The referral is only needed to appease the insurance gods. Sitting in Dr. Bronson's office in Spokane, getting a referral seemed a cinch. But the problems began when Sandy told the doctor at the clinic he didn't want painkillers because he's an alcoholic. The doctor's flippant, dismissing response leaves me to wonder if he has his own issues, a consumer or a codependent byproduct. It doesn't matter. The fact is, he tossed Sandy out of the office, sending a letter banning us, yes, me too, from the property. When I asked Sandy how he managed to get us banned from a medical clinic, he said,
I don't know.
Later, he dropped a few hints.
I asked him if he fell off a turnip truck.
In his defense, the doctor had no understanding of alcoholism or consideration that Sandy has been zombified by pain and no sleep for months. Still, what doctor is going to let a patient yell at him? I let him rant. The next day, he made an appointment with a new doctor. There's nothing I can do but pray. When you're living 24/7 in level 10 pain, you have one desire: to be free of it. All my good intentioned, can I get you? Are you hungry? What can I do for you? Questions feel like a pointy finger poking the spot that hurts. I miss the gentle soul I've taken for granted. He comes home from work exhausted, excruciatingly aware that relief is not in range. I don't know how he manages standing or kneeling all day working with children. He's working in Natchez and Moxie as well, finally attaining full time by combining jobs in 2 school districts. He refuses to take sick leave, saying he won't feel any less pain at home. By the time I get home from the store, he's raging at the thought of spending another sleepless night. I miss his laugh. The last time was months ago. I walked in the door after work, arms loaded with vintage clothing needing to be laundered and steamed. Sandy was on the sofa, tears streaming down his face, body shaking as he attempted to quiet his laughter. He holds a finger to his lips, motioning for me to be still and look at Evan, who's on the telephone.
He's been talking to that telemarketer for 5 minutes.
He whispers.
They asked to speak to the person in charge of our long distance service, so I handed the phone to our communications officer.
At age 2, Evan loves to talk, long, bubbly conversations that have no beginning or end. As if trained in telemarketing combat, he's holding the caller hostage. He keeps jabbering in his own made-up language that no one can decipher because Evan carries the only translation in his head. Whenever I watch Sandy with our grandson, I fall in love with him all over again. A pair of toddlers, one small, one large, exploring whatever is in front of them. Whether tossing wooden spools down the stairs or building avant-garde structures out of scraps of this and that, they are in the land of Peter Pan, sailing on a sea of joy. Their world is not easy for me to enter. I've spoiled their fun more than once, thinking structure will improve the project or rules will enhance the game. I admire Sandy's ability to let a child be, think up wild stuff, act it out, taste it, see it, be it. It's what he refers to as play therapy. It's a magical world where a child is more than enough, just as is. My heart bursts with pride to be the grandma next to his grandpa. Again, again, something proclaiming to label me as old makes me feel beautiful. Not wanting Evan to see Sandy in pain, we've kept the visits short. Understandably, Sandy wants to be left alone. I'm doing my best to give him space. I've grown curious about church. I even made a list of potential tryouts based on recommendations from people in the program that I'm surprised like church. I'm not up to walking into a church hearing a collective gasp at the audacity of me showing up. I want to check it out incognito, if that's possible. Besides, I don't have patience for people who've lived a sheltered life. You know, the ones that always have an umbrella, extra toilet paper, and tons of advice on subjects they know nothing about. If they find out the things I've done, their brains will explode. At the top of the list is the Vineyard Christian Church. Little Sue says it's good, but warns some who went there never returned to AA. That's kind of scary, but it can't hurt to check it out. I'm hoping Sandy will go too.
Okay, wow, pretty emotional one. Old softy, I guess.
Yes, you are.
Okay, my chapter, a little bit about this is, this chapter was about my back surgery, and yeah, about 25 years old, I did something stupid, and herniated a disc in my lower back, and suffered from a little bit to a whole lot, off and on for 25 years. Yeah, it was time, and it was a God deal, and um, yeah, I couldn't, I didn't want to live like that anymore. Something had to be done. The last month or so, I would sleep at the most 2 hours at a time, get up, put an ice pack down the back of my jockey shorts and walk around the house for about 45 minutes and then lay down and sleep for maybe 2 hours again. And I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I could stand. I couldn't sit. I knelt on the floor to watch TV. I knelt on the back of a chair, working in groups with my counseling groups at schools, and something had to change. And like everything else I planned, so I planned the surgery the day before spring vacation started. So I missed 1 day of work. Recuperated in a week and was back at school,
And the surgery has been such a blessing.
oh yeah, I mean,
I know that there's scary stories out there, but this is a definitely success story.
yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think it's important.
that's fine. And right at during this back surgery, Deb got a call, and I guess that call was the start of the decline of our parents. All, and that was the beginning, and we have since whatever are the oldest generation in our family, which doesn't sound very cool, does it? But that's all right. That's who we are, and we have a great life today. But and then the chapter ends with Deb and church, and like everything else she does, 110% straightforward, no looking sideways and get out of my way. But that also has been a blessing, and it brought me to church.
He's telling you, he's a spoiler. He's telling you how.
So I'm going to read chapter 48. Obsessive compulsive God disorder. Face down on the gurney, prep for surgery, I surrender to the anesthesia with 3 prayers. First, that I would not wake up a cripple. Second, that I would not wake up at all if it meant living with this pain. Third, that God's will be done in correlation with the first 2 disclaimers. 4 hours later, I wake up thinking I'm dreaming because the pain is weighing in between 2 and 3. Did I need the morphine drip glistening? Glory from the hanging plastic bag whispering, press my button, big boy. Who cares? I've earned the right to push the heaven button. Thank you, God. I survived. And I'm not in pain. And I can wiggle my toes. For years, random people have hunted me down, force-feeding me nightmarish tales of epic back surgery failures. Had it not been for my daughters, I would not have taken the chance. I was granted a speedy surgery date because Stephanie happened to work in Dr. Bronson's clinic. She's been campaigning for me to get surgery for years. Nanette researched a knife-wielding surgeon noted as the best in the Northwest. Basically, they tag-teamed me. I spend the first night in the hospital. The next morning, after checking his work and hearing my claim of level 2 pain, the doctor releases me. Not for travel, but to stay with Deb across the street in a closet-sized room let out by Sacred Heart. When the nurse leans in, preparing to unplug Mother Morphine, I press the button for one last boost because I could. If all goes well, tomorrow I'll be checked and released to travel the 200 miles back to Yakima. Nothing can spoil my mood, lying in bed next to my sweetie, floating on morphine, celebrating victory over a life of pain. That is, until Deb's lemon yellow flip phone rings.
Hi, Dad. No, we're in Spokane. Remember Sandy's back surgery? What? Mom? What happened? Oh, no. Dad, no. I can't come right away. Sandy can't travel until tomorrow. Okay, I know. Okay, all right. Call me later.
Good old McFarland drama swooping down to kill my buzz. I should have asked for a doggy bag of morphine. Dima is in the hospital, but I doubt that it's serious. I like Dima. She's full of life, never idle, but never underestimate her power as the known but never spoken family matriarch. Next to Dima, the godfather is a weenie. Even now in a hospital bed 300 miles away, she's floating above us like a dark cloud. Deb, who was catering to my every need, is now on the phone, covering shifts at the store so she can race to her mom's side. It's guilt. Last summer she led a brother-sister SWAT team intervention on Dima. What a disaster that was. She prepped Danny to stay strong no matter what. Then, before the first tear fully formed in her mom's eye, she broke, apologizing for even thinking she might be an alcoholic. That's the kind of power Dima holds. Amazingly, to me at least, it was too late to take back the call Deb made to Dima's doctor, defining 1 drink a day as a 16-ounce tumbler refreshed as needed until bedtime. 3 days after the hapless intervention, a social worker came knocking at Dima's door. Deb's information leaked to the doctor comes with a lifelong warranty of consequences. Dima did quit drinking, but now every conversation with her daughter includes clarification that she was not, is not, and never will be an alcoholic, along with the addendum. Having to sit there with that social worker was the most humiliating thing I have ever experienced. To the McFarlands, oozing open sore leprosy is less disgusting than sobriety. And now, Deb and I are both to blame for diluting the purity of alcohol levels in the family gene pool. She still greets us with her sincere hugs and gracious, inviting smile, but not without stating her new mantra. I only quit drinking because I did not want to go back to the hospital with pancreatitis, not because I'm an alcoholic. My doctor agrees. He admits you can have pancreatitis without being an alcoholic. The last line always paints a picture for me of Dima holding the doctor captive, performing the Irish version of Chinese torture until he gives and says what she needed to hear. It didn't take me long to learn. Don't argue with her unless you like long, bloody battles predestined to lose. When Deb gets off the phone, I try to console her, but she's not having it.
You don't understand. My mom doesn't go anywhere without making sure Dad has a guard. She doesn't trust him to be on his own. If Dad is home alone, Mom is in dire trouble.
Like I said, it's guilt. A few months back, Deb gets a whim to go to church. I don't need church for spirituality. Been there, done that. AA is the only place I've ever felt God show up. I thought Deb was happy going to meetings, but typically nothing is ever enough for her. I wish she'd leave me out of it. Every Sunday after service, she goes on about how great it was. It's the worst sales job ever. Face streaked with mascara, eyes red and swollen, claiming, "It was incredible." Sounds fun, right? I admit, since this church thing started, she's different. For one thing, she's given up some control and is not as hard on herself. But how does every conversation end up having something to do with God? Can someone be obsessed with God, OCGD, obsessive compulsive God disorder? Yep, that's it. One Sunday the preacher gave a sermon on grace. Deb comes home bouncing off the walls. I kept my mouth shut, but it wasn't easy. She acted like Webster just invented the word grace. Nearly every meeting topic covers grace in some form. Why didn't she get it then? There's more grace in a dumpy back alley AA meeting than all the churches I've been to combined. That's where I learned of grace. It's not like I haven't shared about grace with her, but then I'm not Pastor What's-His-Face.
Sandy, you should have been there. Pastor Wayne spoke of grace. We're not forgiven because we deserve it. Thank you, Jesus. I don't want what I deserve. I want what I can never earn. Grace. Do you get it? We're forgiven, even though, in spite of, isn't that cool?
Yeah, cool.
Do you want to come with me next week?
No. There's our chapters 47 and 48. And thank you for being here and part of our evening. And remember, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, your local bookstore. Check it out, the library. Our book, In Spite of Us, a love story about second chances.
Or follow along by going to the link here, and you get all this incredibly intense backstory that comes with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll see you next
Thanks for being
Sunday.
with us. Next Sunday, 7 o'clock.
Night, everybody.
Bye.